Hi, everyone. I'm Nate Shear, and this is Mind Force, the podcast for love, life, and learning where your mind truly matters. Today, we'll be exploring so many fun things. Today, we have Megan Murphy, and today we'll be talking about acting, singing, and writing. So, we're going to start with the background, the who, what, why, and where. So, Megan, who are you?
I am a 39-year-old actress currently living in my small town, hometown of Alabama, in Alabama. What? And
Nice.
right now I'm getting ready for Christmas, doing all the Christmas shopping and stuff. And I'm a writer, I'm a singer. I've been pursuing acting professionally for about 20 years now. And I like to read, I like to go to the beach, and I have my own kids show, a YouTube show for kids, which we'll talk more about later, called The Aunt Nene Show.
Nice. That sounds like what you do. Why are you here today?
Because, I don't know, I like going on podcasts because I like to get the word out about The Aunt Nene Show, and it's
Okay.
also fun.
That makes sense. And where in the world? You said Alabama, so we got that out of the way. I need to start asking that question a little bit earlier because now I've had Africa and Germany and some other fun things. I wish I would have captured that, but I didn't have that question built in. We'll start with the fun warm up questions. What's the most surprising or hilarious moment you've ever had on stage or on set?
I was in a play called Nonsense the Musical. This was in college, and I played a character called Sister Amnesia, which is a nun who, it says, a crucifix fell on her head and she lost her memory and she can't remember who she is, and that's why they call her Sister Amnesia. But anyway, it's a silly, goofy character that was fun to play, and there was parts of this play were really funny. Like, I made the audience laugh. Like, I held a laugh for like over a minute. They wouldn't stop laughing and I couldn't say my next line. So finally I was just like, and now, blah, blah, blah. Like, so I enjoy doing comedy the most, but that was one of the most enjoyable, fun moments I've ever had on stage.
That's fun. So, what was the line or the joke that got people rolling for a minute straight?
I can't say it because it's inappropriate.
Okay, we'll keep it clean then. The next question I had for you: if you could duet with any singer in the world, past or present, who would it be and why?
Judy Garland,
Oh, that's a solid one. Why?
because it sounds weird, but I'm not sure if I believe in reincarnation exactly, but she and I have a lot in common in our careers, in our personal life, in our personality, in our talents and abilities. And I just like feel like I get her. Not just who she was as a performer, but who she was as a person in real life.
Nice.
And not the drugs and everything. I don't do that. But sometimes I feel like I was Judy Garland in a past life.
Hmm.
And they say that every time people who believe in reincarnation say that every time you go through each lifetime, you learn something from the previous lifetime. And if you didn't learn the lesson in the previous life, you keep experiencing similar things in your future lifetimes until you learn the lesson. So I feel that, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that, but I think, what if, you know?
It would be pretty fun, right?
Yeah.
To be someone. Have you seen the new Wicked?
I haven't seen it yet. No, haven't gotten around to it yet.
I thought you were going to say
But
you'd
I'm
seen it like
planning on
13
going
times.
for Christmas.
Nice. Have you seen the Broadway play?
Yeah, I've seen it. I think I saw it 3 times, 2 or 3 times. I loved
Nice.
it.
What's your favorite Broadway play, or maybe play in general?
Memphis the Musical. It was on Broadway like 10 years ago. Um, have you ever heard of it?
No.
It takes place in Memphis, Tennessee, in the 1950s, and it's about like rock and roll music in the origins of rock and roll, and there's a love story to it, and the finale of the song says, listen to your heart, heed it, you need it, listen to your soul and let it make you whole. Don't ever let anyone steal your rock and roll.
Mm,
It's just, I just like that play because I'm Southern, I guess, and the
nice.
music is good. And it's just a fun play.
Sounds good. Yeah, it sounds like a good one. I'll have to check that out. My wife loves musicals. Not me as much, but I gotta do some fun things with her from time to time. And the last question in this section: what's one childhood story or experience that inspired your love for acting, singing, or writing?
Well, I know exactly what the answer to this question is. When I was in the 4th grade, the students from the local high school, so the high school students, came to my elementary school. This was the high school theater group, and they were doing the musical Guys and Dolls that year, and they came and performed a few scenes for us elementary kids the of Guys and Dolls. And you've heard of Guys and Dolls, right?
Oh yeah,
It's a this
absolutely.
so well, when I was in the 4th grade, I had never heard of it, and so I thought that this group of singers and actors was called the Guys and Dolls. But anyway, they came and performed some scenes and songs for us, and I loved it, and when I went home that day and I was like, "Mama, I'm gonna be in the Guys and Dolls one day. I wanna do that when I grow up."
Nice. So you knew
And
all the way.
so
How old were you?
4th grade,
Fourth
like
grade. You knew all the way
9
back
years
then.
old, probably.
Nice. You found that calling. I remember I used to go to work with my dad and watch the jets take off, and then I ended up in the Air Force at some point. So I guess there was a connection. I don't know how far back it goes, but it's always good when you find your calling. So that's it for the warm up questions. Before we get started in the main part of the interview, I wanted to see if you had any questions for me.
What's your favorite book?
What's my favorite book?
Or what's your favorite author?
So my favorite author is James Patterson. I've been reading him since I was a kid. They have the new Amazon series out for Cross, but I've always loved Alex Cross, the detective that solves the crimes through psychology and things like that. Psychology's always been really interesting to me. It's kind of funny though, looking back. There's some pretty graphic things in those books, so I probably shouldn't have been reading them because I think I started reading them at 12 or 13, and there's torture and murder and some other things. So I just saw them as like crime novels and things like that. So I guess I didn't think much about it, but when the
Yeah.
show is on, we've been watching it with my wife. I think it's Amazon Prime, right? And realized that probably wasn't the best thing as a kid. I also loved Redwall. Redwall was great. The story about the animals that talk and stuff, that was probably before that. And then some Animorphs in there. But the leader is definitely James Patterson. Who's your favorite author?
It's right there, a whole shelf of them. J.R.R. Tolkien, hands down. That I've read. He's my favorite author that I've read so far because I haven't read a lot. I have my few things that I like. Like there's Harry Potter, there's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Here's the Wicked books right there. I read
There it
those.
is. How many is there? Is there three or four?
There's 4 now. I'm still working on finishing the 4th one,
Mhm.
but I read some of it and then I took a break and put it down and haven't picked it back up.
It's a little more than a trilogy. I don't know what they call four of a kind, but
Yeah, the first one is about Elphaba. It's just the main Wicked story that you see in the musical. The second one is about Elphaba's son. It's called Son of a Witch.
hmm,
And the third one is about the Cowardly Lion. And the fourth one is about Glinda.
interesting. Okay, so we'll transition into the first main theme of yours, which is acting. The first question is what inspired you to pursue acting, which you kind of already answered. So, how has your journey through life shaped this love of acting?
As far as my journey through life, I guess experiences that I've had in real life have prepared me to play certain types of roles in acting. Like, I didn't know what it was like to really get your heart broken until my first boyfriend broke up with me. This was like 15 years ago. But so now I know what that's like. So now I can use that and translate it to a character on stage or film or TV in acting. And I forgot what the rest of the question was.
It was just kind of, how has your life shaped your ability to love acting, which I mean, you kind of touched on already.
On a more positive note, I used to watch a lot of movies. When I was a little kid, I had certain movies that I would watch over and over again. One of them was the musical Annie, the version that stars Carol Burnett as Miss Hannigan, and it also has Bernadette Peters in it and Eileen Quinn as Annie. That really inspired me to develop a love for musicals, like musical theater. And I remember I would go around the house singing, "Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow, you're only a day away." I would sing that over and over again, and my mom would be like, "Stop singing."
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
and
Yeah, it's a catchy tune.
also also there was Mary Poppins
Yeah, it's a
and
popular one.
all the Disney movies like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Lion King. All those were some of my influences.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you share a story about a role that deeply resonated with you or challenged you in an unexpected way?
Yeah. One time an autistic, I played a savant in a play who was autistic, and my character's name was Louise. And I've never been diagnosed autistic before, although I think I might have some tendencies, but it was just very challenging. I did a lot of research for this role. I spoke to some actual autistic people when I was doing this. This was like in 2006. But just getting the mannerisms and the finding ways to make my character a real person rather than just autism. She's also a real person underneath inside and finding ways to bring that out. Because the character I played she was mostly nonverbal, but I thought the way that we did it was sensitive to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense because you have movies like Rain Man and things like that where it
Yeah,
shows an extreme example of something. It's probably not the most realistic of,
but
representing people.
that was one of the most difficult roles to prepare for that required the most preparation that I've ever done. So we actually watched Rain Man as part of the preparation. The director
Makes
had us
sense.
watch Rain Man one day.
I feel like that'd be really difficult and nonverbal. How did you get through some of that? Just getting deeper in character? Because, I mean, going from
Yeah,
talking all the time to nonverbal, that must be pretty difficult.
mostly I had actually done a research paper on autism like a couple years before I did the play. So I just did as much research as possible and try to make it as authentic and, not fake.
Yeah, as genuine as possible.
Yeah, genuine.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, the last question in this section is: how does your experience as an actress influence the way you approach storytelling and other aspects of your life?
I tell stories in like I'm also a writer. I've written some children's books. This one's called The Christmas Tree Farm. But I guess I take storytelling I tell my nephew stories. That's storytelling. I have a
Yeah, absolutely.
7-year-old I have a 7-year-old nephew who calls me Aunt Nene 'cause
That's where it comes from.
yeah, that's where the name comes from. because when he was a baby, he couldn't say Megan. So he was like, "Who is this? Nene."
Nice.
And he still calls me that to this day, even though he's 7 now.
So
But
you
anyway,
pull on your time as an actress and other aspects in writing and singing and other things.
yeah, as far as storytelling, acting is storytelling. When you approach a role, or when I approach a role, I don't just think, I should make this facial expression in this moment, or I should have this emotion in this moment. It's about how can you tell the story of the play through your acting? You have to tell the story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like you had said, trying to make the person real and connect to the people and things like that. So you're really just trying to get that story across. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I love me some storytelling. The next main theme for you is singing. What role does music play in your creative process, and how does singing connect you to the audience?
Well, I love singing. When I made the Aunt Nene show, I used some silly songs that I learned at Girl Scout camp because I used to be a Girl Scout camp counselor. And so, I don't know, like, ever since I learned how to talk, my mom said I started to sing when I was like 2 and 3 years old. So I always knew that singing was something that I enjoyed doing. So when I got older, I took singing lessons. I took voice lessons to learn how to use my instrument better. And now I do the song of the day on my YouTube channel. Not every day, but a couple times a week.
What was the last song?
It was actually today. I did Blue Christmas by
Oh,
Elvis. I'll have a blue Christmas without you.
nice. Can you tell us about a performance or song that holds special meaning for you, and why it holds that meaning?
In the 4th grade, I was in the 4th grade chorus, like the choral group.
Yeah, the choir.
And
Yeah.
I had a solo, and my solo was the first line of the show that we were doing. So I opened the show, and I remember I said, "It's Saturday morning in Sunnyside Park where there's lots of goings on from dawn until dark." That was my line. It was kind of more of a rap, I guess,
Nice.
but I
Why
just
does
remember I'll never forget
Yeah,
those lines for the rest of my life.
it's deeply ingrained in you. How has your passion for singing influenced your work, like the project The Aunt Nene Show?
Well, I do a lot of songs on the Aunt Nene show. The tagline for the show is The Aunt Nene Show, a variety show for kids that includes songs, stories, educational content, and more. So, songs are a big part of it. Let me think. Tomorrow, we're having our holiday spectacular special premiering tomorrow, where we're going to sing we've got several of the guest stars that I've had on my show in the past that have come back for the holiday special. And they're going to sing each one is singing a Christmas song. So we're going to have like a medley of Christmas songs. And we're also going to acknowledge Hanukkah and talk about Kwanzaa as well. So it's like a December holiday special. And then we're going to have a New Year's episode the week after, next week, not tomorrow, but the week after that. I put out a new episode of the Aunt Nene show once a week every Saturday morning. So tomorrow
Nice.
is the holiday special, and the week after that is the New Year's special.
How much time do you spend each week editing and getting ready for it?
Well, I have a great team behind me. I have 2 producers that I work with, and one of them also does most of the editing for me. Well, I pay him to do it, but my producers help me with the editing, and they help me come up with ideas. They help me find guest stars to be on the show. But his name is Hugo, my editor. He helps me with most of the editing. So, because I'm not really good at it, I'm not well versed on that technology.
Yeah, it's always something. I'm trying to learn something new every time with, voices and editing, and there's so much that goes into it. Sometimes it's like, I'll just jump on the mic and do that part, but there's so much that happens behind the scenes. The next section for you is writing. So I'd like to ask you some questions about that. What inspired you to start writing, and how do you balance it with your other activities?
Well, I used to read a lot of books as a kid, and I guess I don't really remember because I started writing books like in the second grade. Like, I would write books. We had a project at school where we had to write a picture book. And I remember my book got awarded the best book in the second grade out of the whole school. And excuse me, they put it up on the bulletin board in the foyer of the school where everybody could see it, and I still have it somewhere. But I don't know. I used to write in a journal a lot, so I guess writing was just a good way for me to express myself because I often don't express myself well with just talking. Like sometimes when I want to say something to somebody that's important, I have to write it down or put it in writing rather than calling them on the phone and telling them, stuff like that.
Yeah, different methods for everybody, right? And so how do you balance that with your other things? You got the show going, you doing some plays, doing some acting. Do you set time every day to do writing, or how does writing fit into the scheme of all the things that are going on?
I don't write every day. I have like bursts of creativity where there'll be a few days where I'll do nothing but write and, eat and sleep and go to the bathroom. But I have some of the books that I wrote a couple months ago right here. We actually did this one a couple weeks ago on the Aunt Nene show. This is called The Christmas Tree Farm. Then, spoiler alert,
New
this
book.
is Jamie's New Year's Wish, which is going to be the New Year's special. Um, to answer your question, I write a lot of these books and then I read them on the Aunt Nene show. So there's like
So
8 books here.
it goes hand in hand. How many books have you written in total?
Let's see, there's that one. Probably around 10 or 12 children's books so far, plus my children's novel that I've started working on when I was like 19.
Hmm.
I've written about half of it and I haven't worked on it in like 20 years, but I plan my goal by the end of my life is to finish it
Okay,
and
what's that
try to
one
get it
called?
published. But I like writing a lot. I like my major in college was acting and theater, but my minor was literature, specifically because I like to write and I love books. And wait, no, my minor was English. That's what it was called.
Can you share a moment where your writing brought a story or character to life in a way that surprised you?
Yeah, I didn't think I could ever write a whole novel. And then I started writing one, and I was reading it earlier, like a couple months ago. I went back and read what I wrote like 20 years ago. And I was like, huh, this is pretty good.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Nice. What's the brief synopsis of the novel? What's
It's called Lyda's Dream Journey. It's about an 11-year-old girl named Lyda who gets transported to a magical realm called Dreamland. And she has a lot of magical adventures. And at the end of the book, she's like the chosen one who's chosen to go to battle against the Nightmare King. And I don't know, I haven't really written the second half of the book yet, so I'm not sure. I might change the ending.
Sounds like a lot of adventures and fun. The last question in this section: how has writing helped you expand your creative horizons as both an artist and storyteller?
I guess I'm just self-taught as far as how to tell a story when you're writing. The reason I write short children's books is because it's easier. It's easier to do, but writing a novel was hard and it took up a lot of time. There's a lot of outlines and preparation that I did. I would only write like 2 pages a day because I had to do the outline before I wrote the final draft.
So, what is the
Yeah.
creative process for writing a book? I've always wondered, like, I guess you started to talk about that with the outline and things like that. How do you start from not writing to finishing, and how do you get through that and organize all your thoughts?
Well, first you have a moment of inspiration when boom, you come up with this random idea for a book. Like for Lida's Dream Journey, I remember I just thought, I want to write a book. How can I write a book? And what's it going to be about? And I thought, well, it's going to be a fantasy novel because I love J.R.R. Tolkien and Harry Potter and stuff like that. Then I sat down and I wrote the outline, like the general outline for the plot of the whole novel. And then when I get ready to sit down and actually start writing it, I write. It's actually funny because I think of it as like scenes in a play,
Hmm.
but you write down the expanded outline for for those pages that you want to write that day, and then I would write it out, and then I would proofread it, and it still probably could use some proofreading, but that's my process.
Okay. Little bits at a time, making your way through
Yeah,
the different processes.
it's less overwhelming if you just write a few pages or a couple pages a day.
That makes sense. The last section we got for you is the Aunt Nene Show. So, what led you to create the Aunt Nene Show? We know where the name comes from. So, what caused you to start a show?
Well, I started the show in March of last year, so March of 2023. I was in a place where not much else was happening in my acting career. I wasn't getting very many acting jobs at the time. So I decided that I was gonna take matters into my own hands and create my own show and do what I want. And so when I decided that I wanted to create my own show, I knew it had to be a kids show because I always loved kids and I loved working with kids and I had a lot of experience working with kids. I used to be a summer camp counselor at Girl Scout camp for many years, and I also grew up with a lot of younger cousins that I used to babysit when they were kids. And now I have my 7-year-old nephew that I babysit now. And I don't have any kids of my own yet, and my only sibling only has one child right now. So that's like, that kid is like my child basically for now. So, anyway, I was influenced by a lot of the songs that I used to sing at Girl Scout camp. So one day I thought, why don't I sing one of my Girl Scout camp songs and make a video of it and put it on YouTube and see what happens? And so I did that, and it got a modest amount of views. It did okay at first, but I thought, well, this is fun. I'll just keep on doing it. I was doing it just for fun. Excuse me. But then I made a bunch more videos, and the 20th video that I made got over 54,000 views on YouTube. I'm not sure how it happened, but it did. And so after that, I thought, well, maybe this could really be something. And I started working with 2 producers, and they're helping me to make this show bigger and better than it is/was in the past. And we got some exciting things coming up, and I can't wait for people to see it.
That's awesome. What do you think's been the most rewarding part of the journey?
Just being able to do something as my occupation, to do something that makes me happy, and inspiring kids and bringing joy to children makes the kids happy, but doing that makes me happy too, because I like doing it. and it's fun and it's rewarding because you feel like you're doing something that means something worthwhile. And
Yeah, it's
so,
always good
yeah.
when you can find something you love to do, right? I feel like a lot of people are, doing jobs they don't love, but they haven't found that thing that really clicks with them. So it's awesome to hear that you have found, that thing that integrates all the different things that you love already and you're helping people.
Yeah, I think I finally found maybe what I meant to, like, the main thing that I meant to do with my life
That's
is
good
being a
stuff.
nanny.
How do you integrate acting, singing, and writing into the variety show to make it engaging for kids?
I write. Like I said, I write books that we read on the show. I sing songs. I guess sometimes I come up with, well, the character of Aunt Nene, I don't really have to put on a character to play that role because it's just me. It's just me like this. And I guess it's the easiest role I've ever played because I just have to be myself.
That makes it pretty easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What do you hope kids and families take away from watching your show?
I hope that they are inspired by the show. I hope that it will inspire kids to find their talents and find their gifts and inspire kids to learn new things. And I hope that most of all that it makes kids happy. And when I came up with the idea for the Aunt Nene show, I wanted to do something that was wholesome and healthy for kids' minds as opposed to some of the what I call junk TV that's out there nowadays for kids, which is mostly just empty nonsense. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of weird shows out there. I got the 6, 10, and 11-year-old, and some of the things they're watching, I just can't quite understand. Try to keep them watching stuff that's educational and things like that. But there's a lot of weird stuff on YouTube. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you're out there trying to make a difference and put some good stuff out there because there is a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move into wrapping it up, bringing all this goodness that we talked about together. So how do you pull acting, singing, and writing? How does that come together in your everyday life to help shape your creative vision?
I use a lot of improvisation in real life, which is something that I learned in theater school, and it helps me when I'm trying to have a important conversation with somebody or when I'm doing these podcasts. I do a lot of podcasts. I started doing podcast in May of this year, so about 6.5 months, I guess.
Nice. How many have you done?
I lost count. I do at least like 10 to 15 podcasts per month.
Ooh, you're cranking them out. That's more than me.
And my publicist, who you probably spoke to, Kevin Higgins,
Oh, yeah.
is the one who helps book me on all these things.
Nice. You got
He's
some
great.
help. That's great. That
He
is super
finds all the
nice.
podcasts for me to be on.
Nice. Is out there searching, trying to find them. So you pull some of that stuff from acting and, pulling on, some of those things that you do in improvisation. Wow, that's a weird word. I just think of whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, that I love that show. That's an example of improvisation. Yep.
It's a great show. And you pull that into all the things that you're working on. So what advice would you give to aspiring creatives who want to pursue multiple passions like you have?
First of all, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm sure everyone's heard that before, but it's true. My most important advice would be to start from what you know. Like, what hobbies do you have, or what subjects are you an expert on? And write about that. Start writing a journal if you want to be a writer. It's a good writing practice. Most importantly, my most important advice is don't give up on your whatever you're doing. Don't give up. Because if you give up on your dreams, if you give up, then you've got no chance of making it big, of achieving your dreams. But if you don't give up, you've got a small chance of making it big.
That
But if
makes
you give up,
sense.
but you've got no chance. The
Never
ones
give up.
who the ones who the ones who make it are the ones who never give up.
That is a great message. If listeners should take away one message today about creativity and storytelling from you, what would you want it to be?
I don't know, I can't think of anything. I guess what I just said is don't give up and just use what you know and be yourself, and there's no one in the world like you because each individual person in the world is different from everyone else. So just be yourself because that's your power. Like, no one is like you. So therefore, no one is really competing with you. We've all got a seat at the table because we've all got different gifts and talents and personalities and appearances, and each individual person is different. So, you see what I'm saying? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. I think that's a really good piece of advice. I'll have to highlight this clip out for the masses because I think that's something super important to remember. We always want to be better or compete or things like that. And I think that's one of those weird human nature things. I don't know if that goes back to caveman days, trying to, take food from people or whatever that goes back to. But I think that's a really good reminder. Like, you are who you are. And I've always been one that I've, felt weird and felt different. And, at some points I've struggled, but with that, but other times I realized like I was meant to be the way that I am. So, I like that you said that and remind people out there that are listening, you are who you are. And I like that you said you're not competing because you can't compete against one because you are the only one. So you're doing a great job. Keep it up and don't give up, like you said earlier. So, Megan, I thank you for coming out. Please provide feedback on the podcast. The feedback makes the podcast even better. Drop your thoughts on questions, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, or Buzzsprout. And thank you for being a part of the Mind Force journey. I love you all. See ya.